Advocates for the homeless and people in recovery are trying to restore more of the programs that were lost with the shutdown of facilities on Long Island. That was the object of a recent rally and Speak Out. To explain the message are a formerly homeless person who's a community organizer for the Boston Homeless Solidarity Committee, Aubri Esters, and the former assistant manager at Serving Ourselves Forum, Sara Riegler. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you.
I want to start with Aubri. There's been a catching up on the homeless shelter beds that were lost when they had the shutdown in Long Island, but what about the rest of the programs?
So when Long Island was shut down, we lost 265 recovery beds, some of which were short-term detox, some of which were over a year programs, particularly some for the most vulnerable populations like people with HIV, Hep C, or other chronic illnesses. And all those, majority of those beds haven't been recovered since the closing of the island.
And Sara, what about the program that you were involved on, the farm on Long Island? Talk about what you were doing before that abrupt shutdown.
Yeah, so the farm was one component of the Serving Ourselves program, which had 4 different sites on the island. And so folks who were staying in the Long Island shelter could apply for a full-time paid job through the Serving Ourselves program at one of those sites, either the farm, the maintenance, the laundry, or the culinary arts program. And so within each of those sites, they would get vocational training in those skills. So at the farm in particular, we would train people in horticulture and agriculture skills with the hope of them moving on to a landscaping job or a nursery job or something like that more permanently in the future.
What did you notice about people working at the farm? I mean, even if you didn't know what happened to them after they left the program, what did you see developing while they were there?
So I think a lot of it was just finally having some space. So having, some stability, a guaranteed job for 6 to 8 months, and then a place to stay, a place to have all your food. So sort of getting rid of those worries for a little while really gave people a lot of space to engage with their own mental health, their physical health, which is something that I saw really change people a lot. The process of just moving again and sweating and working hard and getting stronger. We would talk a lot about like healthy ways to use your body while you're working so that you can keep working for many years, and just that process of feeling your physical body working and accomplishing something really tangible, I saw really help people in their mental health struggles. And it was also a very self-guided process. It wasn't that we were sitting down on opposite sides of a desk saying, okay, let's talk about your problems for the next 40 minutes and try to fix them all right now. It was, more of an organic, pun intended, process of giving them space to be outside and to work and have a satisfying job and to work towards their own healing and empowering in that way.
We're talking with Aubri Esters from the Boston Homeless Solidarity Committee and Sara Riegler from Serving Ourselves. Aubri, what about those recovery programs or recovery beds? How do you get them short of building a new bridge, which isn't going to happen right away?
So one offer that was made to the city was from Jack Connors. He offered to provide free ferry service for both the shelter and the recovery programs, free of charge for 5 years. That would have only required minor changes and modifications to the dock that's already existing on Long Island. That's being used during the summer for the children, the summer camp. And the city never took them up on that offer. They claimed the state rejected it and said that they had problems with there was some kind of problem with the state not being able to do it. The state, we found out afterwards, the state was never approached from the city of Boston about the offer at all. So there's some misinformation and possibly miscommunication between the city of Boston and the state, and therefore we have increased in overdose and less beds and recovery programs in Boston right now.
Well, when people think of this problem that both of you are talking about, the one manifestation that's hard to miss, and the Globe did this long story about it, was what's known as methadone mile. How do you see the problems you talk about as contributing to what we're reading about in that story in the Globe?
So the phenomenon of what's known as methadone mile, or as some prefer to call it, recovery road, is that really wasn't exist. It wasn't a problem before the closing of Long Island. The increase in foot traffic down there is in a large part, in my opinion, a result of the shelters all being bunched together, along with other services that people who are homeless and poor and suffering from addiction and working on recovery use. They're all in a very small area. So where before Long Island we had these services and programs, 265 people were in treatment at any point in time, and there were folks that were bussed out to the island, 400 to 500 each day. Now these people are all in the same area, like a half-mile radius. So I see it kind of more as a problem. Well, I see it as personally, it's very painful for me because I walk down that road every morning, and I see the stigmatization that people face just from business owners, particularly from police, and neighbors, and healthcare workers that are walking on their way to BMC. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of people that are out there that just need someone to listen to their problems, and there's no one out there doing that. And I think there's a real lack of outreach workers in the city, and particularly in that area.
Sarah, what about the farm? Is there any idea you have about, I mean, short of the ferry service, let's say, is there any way to reconstitute this at another location in the city?
Yeah, that was our hope following the closure in October 2014 and that winter of 14 into 15. There was a lot of conversation about that, about possibly opening it, reopening the farm at a site on the mainland, one of the many city-owned parcels of unused land. So there are many of these parcels, and there was the article that was passed under Mayor Menino that should, sort of streamline, as the Urban Agriculture Act, streamline the process to accessing these lands for farming purposes. But that, for unclear reasons, wasn't able to happen. There was some proposals for a piece of land in Mattapan, and there are a couple other smaller parcels around the city. So I think it would be very possible with political will to reopen the farm on the mainland or on the island.
Aubri, you have also some events coming up because we're approaching another anniversary of the closing of Long Island.
Yeah, so October 8th, 2016 will be the 2-year anniversary of the abrupt closing of Long Island, where folks were without any notice, or hardly any notice, were all shuffled off the island immediately in buses. Many people left and lost a majority of their personal belongings that are still on the island, including medications and whatnot. So this year, October 7th, the time is still to be determined, but there will be a memorial and day of remembrance for the Long Island refugees.
Sarah, I have to make you go back a bit. What was it like when they had that abrupt closure, at least for the people that you were in contact with on the farm?
I mean, it was, for me personally, it was heartbreaking. It was very traumatic for our clients. Like I said, the island offered this space to take a breather from this constant struggle for survival, and completely out of the blue, our clients were thrown back into that with no warning. I mean, absolutely none. And so it was extremely traumatic for them, and it was heartbreaking, literally, for me to watch them go through that. I felt panicked, wondering where they were sleeping, how they were doing, knowing that most of the guys that were working on the farm with us had addiction problems in the past, and knowing that they were probably going to be back down near Southampton Street. So yeah, it was as if some sort of natural disaster had happened, because it was just panic for a few days, and what is going on, what's going to happen. And then in terms of the farm itself, we had all of our chickens out on the island. It was October, so we were in harvest season. We had thousands of pounds of potatoes, onions, garlic, all of the crops that we had harvested in the weeks leading up to that were out in the buildings out on the farm. And so it was heartbreaking in that sense too, because all of our work that we had been doing all season was out there and we couldn't get to it, and we still had 3 weeks left in our CSA program. It was sort of a disaster for the farm also, and heartbreaking because it was a space that myself and the manager at the time and all the guys that were working on the farm really tended as our own. I mean, it was like we loved that space so much and we had put so much time and effort into it that the day that I was able to go back to the island to rescue the chickens, I just cried for like an hour on the farm.
Aubri, if people would like some more information about the upcoming anniversary and some of the other activities the committee's been working on, is there some way they can find that?
Sure. So we have a page up on Facebook. It's you just search for Boston Homeless Solidarity Committee, and you can message us, and we'll be putting up events for the anniversary in the next few weeks.
Thank you both very much, Aubri Esters and Sara Riegler.